Hey, folks, we'll give it a minute for everybody to join.
Y'all ready?
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm sorry I'm having to do this, but I'm somehow locked out of my computer that has all of my files and everything on it. So um, I'm going to ask Jim if you will share your screen, or uh, Shree, one of the two of
Yep.
you, and let's have a look at the paper.
Yep.
We are.
Uh, sure, Jim. I'm just sharing my screen. But before that, I think we have some new visitors. Maybe we give a short introduction, what's happening right now.
Yep.
Let me share my screen as well.
Please.
Should I introduce myself?
Yes, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jay. I'm the lead materials engineer for 3D Architect. We're a metal manufacturing and design company. Um, I was invited to this. I understand that this is in fire suppression. I'm not exactly sure what role our product would play in that, but I'm open to learning more about this particular line of work just to see what the needs might be and see if we can address any of them with our solutions.
Okay. Thanks, Jay. Yeah. Maybe, yeah. Jensen would like to.
Sure. My name is Jensen Stenberg. I'm a field applications engineer with Amphenol Industrial Operations. New to the company and new to OCP. We make a lot of liquid and power connectors, and just trying to find areas where we can contribute as a company.
Okay, nice. Thank you, Jens. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yes, my name is John House. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. John House. I'm with the Redland Energy Group in Washington, D.C. And for this purpose, I represent Battery Council International, which is the trade association that represents all the North American battery manufacturers and suppliers. And we're involved in different chemistries, lithium, lead acid, flow, sodium, zinc. So we're very interested in this thing. And I will say I have read the latest draft paper, and I think it's very, very well done. And so I commend this group for this work, and we're very interested in participating.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Yeah. Thank you for the nice words. Maybe Vignesh.
Hey, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Very
We can't
faint.
hear.
Very faint.
Yeah.
Join from
Can you try again, Vignesh? Or yeah, maybe then we move to Sam and then maybe come back to Vignesh later. Sam?
It's better now.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Sam Kearney, and I'm the CEO for Power Magnetics. Heard about your group through another OCP power distribution group, and not sure if we're the right fit or not, but just wanted to call in and kind of get a sense of where you guys are in your process, what you're working on, and see if there is, if this is related more to the electrical design as well, if there's areas that we can contribute.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. So maybe Josh, I think he's left, right?
Yeah, good
Or
morning.
did
Yep. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Please go
Hi.
ahead.
Yeah, I'm Josh Gerber. I currently work as a consultant in Southern California, mostly on large stationary battery energy storage systems and the safety subsystems around them. And just I'm very interested in the crossovers into your sector and how those issues are being handled here.
Okay. Thank you, Josh. I think then we have Ben.
Yes, so my name is Ben Gully. My background is mostly with lithium-ion batteries, research and testing. I worked in the stationary industry applications for several years, and also many years with marine power systems. We're adopting energy storage systems, and so I helped as a part of DNV, which is kind of the regulatory classification entity, help do a lot of the testing and writing the requirements for safety and how we're handling safety in the marine industry. And now I'm actually with SPOC, where we do power electronic systems, DC distribution, inverters and things. And so I'm kind of shaping up, heading the energy storage side of that from a power architecture standpoint.
Yeah. Thank you, Ben. Yeah. I think then we have a Jay from 3DA maybe.
I introduced myself earlier. I'm the metal
Sorry.
manufacturing.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, got it. Yeah. I got a little confused.
Did
Okay,
we get
maybe
Sam?
yes,
Hey,
I
this
believe.
is Vignesh. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, Vignesh, go ahead. Yeah, we can hear you.
Right. Sorry about the audio issue earlier. This is Vignesh from FloatStack. I understood that this is the energy storage working group,
Yeah.
and I was told to listen in to see if I can contribute. I'm from FloatStack, and my background is energy storage and inverter and converter design in the past. And here I'm here to see if I'll be the right fit to help contribute to this group.
Nice. Thank you, Vignesh. Yeah. Okay, maybe Dan, I think we can introduce ourselves. Yeah, maybe I'll give a short introduction and then maybe Dan goes.
Yeah,
So
let
my
me give a short introduction and then
sure, go ahead, Dan.
I don't think we've got anybody else. Of course, you and Jim, but I'm Dan Lambert. I'm Senior Energy Storage Standards Specialist for Zinc 5 Incorporated. We're a battery manufacturer, and we have been involved in this paper since its inception. And as of right now, myself and Sri and Jim are the moderators of this group, and we actually have a bit of a task ahead of us. I was just looking at the calendar before the call. We have until about January the 21st to complete this paper and submit it to OCP for their review and approval. That gives us basically 3 or possibly 4 meetings between now and the delivery of the paper to OCP. And that depends on whether we have a meeting on the 24th of December. So without a whole lot of further ado, Sri, can you share the paper on the screen? Open it up and let's have a look at it.
Yeah, will do. I think
Where
for
we are.
yeah.
Go ahead, Sri.
Yeah, sorry, just short introduction on myself, and then yeah, I'll directly jump in to white paper. Yeah, so my name is Shrikant, and I'm from company Rital. So yeah, we are involved very deeply in rack and power, and right now we are also providing solutions to big battery energy storage systems for plants, and we would like to bring the expertise from there to data centers as well. Just for background, like what's happening for the first ones who are joining in. So let me share my screen. Yeah. So what we are trying to, I think maybe some of you already know, we are trying to finish a white paper, which is kind of the OCP data centers would follow through the paper and make it kind of a OCP ready energy storage system. So that's kind of target what we want to reach. And this is kind of only work stream right now. So that means this is the first step, which we are moving towards having own group and maybe bring in specific influence specification in the later stages. But right now it's just basic groundwork what we are doing now, and I think these are the initial first meetings what we have to finish this white paper as a base, and then to build up better technology or new specification, everything above on it. So the idea, our target was that we have to present this OCP paper finished, approved by OCP event in Barcelona next year. And that's what maybe Dan was suggesting, or we have internally the target to finish it by Jan 21st for submission, because it may have internal iterations or reviews. Yeah, that's kind of a background to Thomas who are joined in.
Yep. So real quick question. Does everyone on the call have access to the paper?
I think I have access, but I'm not sure. Was looking at the most up-to-date version. Could you maybe just put a link to what is this exact one? Maybe just paste in the chat real quick. Just to make
If you have used the link in the invitation, that takes you to the Google page, the Google Docs page that this is hosted on, and that page is live. So what you're seeing right now is in fact the paper as it stands at this time. We have just gone through it. Yep.
The drive page, yeah. So if you go to drive, and then it has all the documents here, white paper and other minutes of meeting, and this is the white paper. You see, and this is the latest version what we have.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we are at this point in time, basically, we have completed the initial run through all the way down through the energy storage technologies that we're covering and a lot of the codes and standards. I encourage everybody on the call, if you have not already done so, read this thoroughly. Each of you, if you have access to the paper, should have the ability to make suggestions. And
yeah, maybe I show this, Dan. Yeah, sorry to stop you, Dan. Just show that like here on the right side, there is editing mode and suggesting mode or viewing mode. So maybe if you're just reading, I would suggest just viewing mode. And yeah, or oh, now it's gone.
Yes, you should not be using edit mode. We have a dedicated editor, and he's the only one that should be using editing mode. And I think if you're new to this, you should have to request edit mode anyway. So you should automatically come in either at viewing or suggesting. If you want to make comments, make sure you're in suggesting mode. But I would really like for everybody to read through the paper, understand where we are at the moment. And we are down through, if memory serves me correctly, we are working in section either 6 or 7 where it deals with codes and standards.
Yeah.
We are pretty well up to date on the codes and standards in the US and pretty much with the overall IEC standards requirements. Where we're really lacking is in other individual areas that have their own specialized or specific area codes and standards. And there's also some room for work in the very tail end of the document down in storage and implementation, transportation, such as that. And that's actually one of the questions I wanted to raise about this paper. We have a section in here about transportation. But seeing as how this is supposed to be a paper about the installation and safety requirements for energy storage, should we be covering transportation? That's something that's outside the actual implementation of the energy storage system in the data center.
Is there another subgroup within OCP that is doing that, or is this the only place where that could be done?
I doubt that it's being handled anyway, John. Yeah.
Well, it is important.
Yeah.
I've been on most of the other OCP working groups, and from an energy storage standpoint, there's a little bit of discussion about kind of its role in the power system, but really not that. I definitely don't see any of those groups getting into the installation physical side.
True. I think just going from first agenda, Dan, what we spoke, the first would be, I think it would be interesting to hear from you guys. The name of the group by itself, it is, I think, this is a bit confusing. It's called DC, ESS, and Fire Suppression. And we're talking about energy storage much more in detail. And fire suppression is, of course, a part of it. So should we change the name to just energy storage systems, and that would include everything, or we keep it as it is?
I'd like to hear opinions from some of you guys that are just coming in as to how clearly you understand what the scope of the paper is just from the title.
Yeah, that's what I was going to kind of annoyingly answer your question with a question, which was more so, what is the kind of the charter, the objective? What is OCP looking for? I mean, this is a fantastic collection of, what you need to know and the standards and things. Are they looking for recommendations, or is there what is the customer, the target audience really trying to get out of this?
Well, just my own thought, is the group, or this is an unfair question, maybe we'll ask it anyway. Are we looking to have kind of like a rating system of which battery chemistry is more safe than the other? I mean, you get involved in something like that. I mean, God, that'd be pretty fraught with a lot of controversy to do something like that.
Yeah. Sure. No, so, what the original concept of this paper is that this is something that a potential client or a party that's wanting to come in and lease services from a data center would be able to use to basically understand and determine whether or not the energy storage system in its installation and application is something that they would feel comfortable with from both the technology, the fire safety of it, the installation requirements of it, and of course the sustainability side of it. The very top of it, the executive summary and the purpose are all laid out very, very clearly in the first couple of pages of the document. And this is honestly something we don't have to decide to do today. since some of you are new to this and have not been involved before, it would probably be very beneficial to go ahead and read through the document and really gain an understanding of what we have right now before we decide whether or not we need to change the name. That is something that is on our agenda to do, is to determine whether we want to keep the name as it is or change it. But I'm willing to hold off on making that physical change until next meeting, which would be, if I remember right, January the 4th or 5th. It's the first Monday or first Wednesday in January, I should say.
Well,
Um,
I was going to say, just for the purposes of discussion, and I'm not making any motion or anything like that, but as I read this thing, and I thought it was, I think it's fairly well written. I'm not criticizing it, but what I got out of it was that there has been a lot of deployment of lithium ion systems, which is fine, and I got nothing against lithium ion. But there have been instances of some incidents of fire and that kind of thing, which has resulted in a lot of safety standards being handed down to say, if you want to use lithium, okay, but you're going to have to buy a lot of protective fire suppression equipment and everything else to make sure that it runs safely. And then it gets into other battery technologies, which is fine. And so that's why I say, if we were trying to anoint a particular technology as the one to go to, God, I'd be very careful about doing something like that. But as to the changing the name of the group, fire suppression, made that's big stuff. I mean, you have to keep your eyes open when you employ any kind of a technology to serve energy storage needs for these data centers or anything else for that matter. And but there are other issues associated with energy storage, like, for example, R&D to improve the performance quality of a particular technology. That's a whole different area of work that I strongly support. And if you want to get into something like that, then fine. That's going to broaden the scope of the effort and result in a lot more work. Not that I'd be opposed to that. I'm just saying that's what I see going on.
Right. So one of the aspects of this, excuse me for just a moment, Viz, just so I can make this point. This is, number one, supposed to be a non-commercial paper.
Right.
Okay. And it is designed realistically so that in the future, as technologies change, improve, or in whatever manner they evolve, we are able to go back and essentially amend this document or rewrite it to meet the current standard at that time. So it's not intended to be a cast in stone type document. It is something that we can literally consider as a living document. So that's my take on it at any rate. As you were going to say something, please?
Yes, I was. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My point was regarding energy storage system. Here I've noticed in the document that it only involves batteries, but energy storage for us at FloatStack also involves UPS and capacitors and supercapacitors, because technically they're also energy storage by definition. So are we covering those as well?
We have a broad just
that's
mention of this capacitors.
Yeah.
But as like John was saying, once we add UPS, right, and also fire suppressions and the chemical compositions, and the norms also expand, and it's quite different from one to one, and the paper would be really broad. And it's here is just a mention about example like what you talked about capacitors, right? So yeah, we just mentioned what's a capacitor, right? And also example, there is sodium ion batteries we mentioned, just what is the composition of that. I think from my understanding, maybe Dan can correct me, this is a really basic document that any data center who wants to set up or who is thinking about OCP, right? You just have a look for what is available and what does it mean to him, really basic. And as I said, maybe with time we can improve on it and have multiple white papers dedicated to UPS. I believe UPS by itself is a huge topic, needs a white paper
Right.
by itself, right?
Correct.
So I think then we can maybe broaden ideology or ideas. But right now we need just a basic document stating what it is, and for any one who want to adopt, just to give them the safety. I would say the safety. I think one of our colleagues was saying that, yeah, I made a safety for my energy storage system. That's good enough. So it did not follow any norm or yeah. So we want to avoid that, and we always ask them to reflect to their local norms. Like US, it would be UL, and yeah, in other parts in IEC and other any other safety norms according to countries. So this is just a basic, I would say, document once for one who is targeting mainly, I would say, I put the who are the stakeholders here in the beginning. Yeah, data
Understood.
center designers and builders. Yeah,
The
and
biggest
yeah,
reason I
tenants.
asked
Yeah,
that question, Shrikant, is from a
yeah,
point of view of 800-volt architecture, where um, because the voltage sag will be quite a bit there,
right,
we are adding capacitors on the rack and energy
right, right.
storage on the 800 bus itself. So maybe we should include a point on 800-volt architecture in this document, like a generic section on it, because that's been
Sh-
a big driving factor across OCP right now.
Yeah, sure,
We
Vignesh. I
have,
mean, please go ahead. I think Dan, what do you think?
honestly, we have not addressed any
Yeah,
voltage limits in here.
yeah,
I think that quite honestly, gentlemen, I think that we've probably got enough to chew right now with what we have just to get this paper to a
yeah.
point where we can hand it to OCP.
Understood.
I'm not opposed to putting something like that in there, but there are still a number of questions, and I'll just say that 800 volt, at least from what I have observed, is not what I would consider mature right now. It's still in the development stages. And what we're trying to do with this is get information in the hands of things that are in the field right now. We can work to amend this in the future. We can do another white paper. Just because we turn this white paper in and it gets approved or modified or whatever OCP chooses to do with it, doesn't mean that we cannot create another white paper work group under the same basic the power distribution or excuse me, the data center facilities work group. So
One piece.
let's get what we have right now finished, and then we can come back and talk about things to add in, things of that nature. What I'm after more than anything else at this point in time is additional information on, excuse me, the codes and standards requirements, any of the information on storage, transportation of lithium, or other battery technologies for that matter. We do not have any quote unquote preferred technology. We're trying to basically present this on a level playing field so that there's no commercialism involved at all. That's the whole concept here.
We don't
And
need
so,
to change. Following that,
yeah,
Understood.
I'm open to other technologies, but let's get done what we have done. What are you going to say, John?
Understood.
I was
Thanks
going
for
to say
clarifying
that
that.
if we're talking about getting this paper done, and like I say, I've read it. I don't have too many problems with the paper. I mean, I think it's very honestly done. You don't need to change the group for something like this. But
Yeah.
get this thing done. I think, Dan, what you're getting at is get this thing done, and then we can reconvene and talk about some of the broader things.
Yeah, this is
Right.
Jim. Sorry, guys. Hey, guys. Jim here. Part of the working with Dan and Shrikant. I think it's a good point that we need to eventually to cover 400, 800 volt and beyond. I think right now this paper alludes to it. So we do mention sidecars and the like. But to Dan's point, I think it is important to really level set. This is a baselining activity of what best in-class advices for managing the risk associated with the batteries that are being shipped today. I think to your point on 800 volt, I think we're going to have to quickly kind of convene a next level group to talk about some of the big questions there. And there are some big questions with respect to battery density, voltage, and whatnot that we're not going to be able to cover in this document. So I think whoever mentioned that we should be doing that sort of work, I agree, and I think it's probably a fast follow on once we establish this white paper.
Well, one place where it does maybe kind of cross over what we have here is because I think you have a section here that kind of talks about installation and that kind of aspect of the 800 volt and integrated super caps closer to the rack or distribution level ESS.
Yeah,
those pieces could come in. So I mean, and that starts to creep into the other piece in here, just looking at where we're looking to fill in with as far as fire suppression and ventilation. And so maybe that's kind of realistically the right aspect to address in this context for that kind of 800 volt implementation, but it's just the practical aspects of installation, ventilation. What does it mean when we have ESS spread out throughout the data center, stuff like that?
I mean, if there's some statements or some information we can provide now in those sections where the industry's going and kind of set up that next deeper dive, I think that's probably a good approach. If you and I think we can probably add a little bit of detail too, but that I think that's appropriate. But I think these areas, I don't think Christina's on the phone. She's with Google. I think she's going to have some strong opinions on those emerging topics, and we're going to need a whole separate. It's going to take a lot more time, probably a good part of 2026 to kind of get there on some of those topics. So that's where I say if this group, those of you involved in 400, 800, if you want to add some more, build out some of those sections, super caps, or voltage consideration, go for it. But again, I think given the time frame we're dealing with, we want to probably just kind of do quick summaries on where the industry is moving, and then we'll pick it back up in earnest early in 2026, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, thanks for clarifying. Really appreciate all the clarifications. That makes sense.
Vignesh, just to add what Jim was saying, we need contributions, so there is nothing to stop, right? Of course, suggestions. So I would suggest please go ahead and fill up as you see sections which are empty, because initially there are basics which we have filled up a little bit, but there are a lot of sections which are empty, especially like handling what was saying. And energy storage systems was only one. It was really generic. Even I divided the topic like what came about as chemistry and technology and architecture and topology is separate, which we did not discuss as well internally. So that would already bring a lot of topics divided, and we just want to provide a summary of things. And please go ahead. I would suggest to anybody here, please go ahead and I would contribute rather than to stop or not to think about contributing, and then slowly we can develop on it.
Yeah, no, really appreciate that. Yeah, I'll go ahead and see what I can do to add to those. I've requested access.
Good. That's great. And just based on this conversation, I'm going to go ahead and talk to our sponsor about the potential of creating another working group to continue after we deliver this paper for approval. So that's good stuff.
And then subgroups within that new group, right?
Probably so. Yeah. We'll just expand on what we've already done here and refer back to this.
Then, or maybe we just continue, we take up one topic what we are discussing and then continue the topics of relevance.
So on the topic of fire suppression and ventilation, and I don't know how far we're going to go with this, but one thing that can maybe help us get some things in there with regard to the deadline. But we did a whole testing campaign on the maritime side where we did a whole bunch of tests and basically just wrote it as a technical reference paper, just kind of showing what we saw, what we tested on how I don't know, a bunch of different pieces of it. I put a link to that paper. It was with DNV, but it's published, but I put a link just straight to it so you can get to it easily. But we can maybe use that to pull some of the stuff out. But again, it just depends. That's like you said, I mean, that was a multi-year effort, that alone. So I don't know how far we want to go with this, but maybe that gives us, we can pull some things out of there and just reference it to be able to put some pieces in there.
Was there any checklist kind of which we can extract from that, Ben?
Yeah,
Which we
we
can
worked
put in?
pretty hard to put some to summarize things. So that's kind of what I'm thinking is we could pull from the short summaries of that into here.
Yeah.
I think even the first couple pages, really, we basically just said, okay, here's a short and sweet if you really wanted to take something away. But it shows all
Actually,
the
Ben,
testing.
if you want to take a look at that and read through this paper and see where you feel like an information extracted from that could be utilized.
Well, I was basically filling in chapter 7 or section 7 that you have
Yeah,
here.
yeah. I would say, why don't you go ahead and make the suggestion wherever you see that it can be applied, and let's have a look at how that would help the paper. That's exactly the kind of thing we're after, particularly if we have a referenceable document that we can put into bibliography.
Yeah. And also, just to add, if you have some expertise in very particular subject, like we know Lance, he has expertise in this sealing solutions, which the company is working on. So he put some information on very particular level that I think we'd be open to look at this expert information, which is relevant to our topic. So that's also, I think, would be fine.
Can I ask a question on contributions? This is Josh.
Yeah, go ahead.
So many of the things that you're showing on the screen are things that I'm sort of deeply familiar with from the stationary BESS world, and I'm very U.S. focused. Our U.S. codes are based around national fire protection standards and have recently been updated. There will be some debate over time as to whether or not folks are going to need to go back and update their existing systems to those updated standards. The guidance here that you have on some of these things looks very brief. Do you want to remain very brief and footnote out, and like you've been talking about today, table some of these items for future discussion, or do you want to try and address them here for what looks like maybe an international audience?
Well, this is based for an international audience, but the reality is that outside of IEC documents, which there is some safety documentation, but most of it's performance based. Many jurisdictions outside of the United States point to either NFPA or ICC documents as baseline for what they do, even referencing them in preference to some local codes. And one thing that I have noticed in conversations with a number of participants from outside the United States is that the International Fire Code, the IFC, that's published here is heavily referenced in other areas of the world. And there is a growing recognition that 855 is, in fact, the de facto best practice for for ESS installations globally. And there are a number of jurisdictions that will take 855 over just about anything that they've found as far as fire safety and ESS. So we can basically talk about these changes in the codes and standards here in the US, because eventually these are going to evolve into other codes and standards in other countries. Nobody disputes the fact that the ESS provisions in the US codes and standards are as good as any in the world.
Okay. So will it be helpful if I make suggestions for additions that include footnotes to 855 specific articles and subsections? Okay, then I'll do that.
Absolutely.
Josh, my suggestion would be this is a voluntary contribution from all of us. I would not suggest to hold you back of any possible contribution. Please go ahead, and if there is too kind of what we say is, oh, it's too much or bad, let us in this meeting come together and decide maybe with voting or someone like what it is or should not be, something like that. better more than discuss and clear than nothing. So
Okay,
yeah.
careful what you ask for. I might have a lot to. I might have a lot
That's
to
good,
say.
Josh.
All right.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh yeah. As I see, yeah, the last part is pretty empty. Yeah, codes we try to fill it up, but the last part is empty, handling and also we would be happy to have this kind of testing information. That's what we have, and also the initially we have not put information, that is the energy storage system has been divided into two topics. Oh, where is this? One moment, sorry. Yeah, as architecture and topologies and chemistry and technologies. So that's pretty much empty, and maybe that could be now. Should we keep this as it is, or we just keep energy storage system as a broad text?
Yeah, and I would encourage some input. I know quite a bit about architecture and topologies and chemistries and technologies, but quite honestly, guys, I don't feel like I should be writing the whole white paper. I'd rather be a contributor than the author of the whole paper. And I would encourage somebody that has knowledge specific and particularly the more recently tuned, let's say,
Yeah.
knowledge of these areas. I'd rather have somebody else write those sections.
Yeah. I think, of course, Vignesh, what you are suggesting, maybe it will come under architecture and topology, so then we can put some things there as well.
Right.
Right now it's empty. Right now, not much. It's really basic information. It just says let me go there. Yeah. It just energy storage technologies, and then yeah, kind of batteries. We talk about batteries and this chemical, nickel, zinc, lithium, and sodium. Yeah, that's it. And electrical supercapacitors. So there is no topology or anything, absolutely zero. So yeah,
Right.
we can
Do you
start putting
guys
some information.
do you guys want some of the language that I saw on the screen toned in a more maybe generic way? So especially around some of the safety claims and thermal claims and things like that among the various battery chemistries, we might see some sort of commercial slant
Oh.
come into work like this.
Yeah,
From my
it needs to be
experience,
non-commercial.
Yeah,
from my
it needs
experience,
to
it
be
really
cleaned out.
doesn't
Yeah,
matter when we're talking about these high voltage, highly energetic systems. There's potential for arc sparks and fires, regardless of the
right.
chemistry, and we see all of them burn.
Yeah,
Right.
All of them.
Yeah, and to that end, keep in mind that it is supposed to be a non-commercial paper. We're not supposed to be favoring any technology. We're supposed to be presenting facts and let people make their own decisions.
yeah,
We're supposed to be doing what true journalists are supposed to do. Deliver the facts and let them make their own decision about things. Having said that, the codes and standards where there is specific language in there, we need to maintain that language, whether we actually do a physical quotation, which needs to be, we need to give proper footnote annotation for where it comes from and such as that, or whether we just carry the intent of the comment or the of the code.
Copy that. And have you addressed explosion or gas risks in the paper yet?
not yet, I believe.
Okay.
No, we have some data, but I haven't inserted it there. There is
Yeah, that
when
could
there
be
is
like in
something that
emergency,
is
maybe then.
when there's something that is common. Let's just, and I'm going to pick a little bit here. If I'm going to use iron phosphate as a reference point, okay. So if there is something that is common to all of the iron phosphate technologies, we can talk about that. If there's something that is specific to one particular manufacturer's iron phosphate, we don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, no, it's
that-
explosion and gas are generic risks to all types of
Right,
energy storage
right.
systems, not even just the LFP, of course.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's good. If you're talking about, and honestly, I have data for most of the typically applied lithium batteries and other batteries that I could share, but I'm trying to not give that specific detail. But if you want to give generalities about that, in other words, not specific parts per million type commentary, that's fine. The other thing that I want to point out as far as these energy storage systems, because there are so many technologies that are out there that are not typically applied in data centers, such as stored water, gravity, and even flywheels are getting to be much less installed now. So there's not so much of a chance of people running into a bunch of flywheels in a certain application. We have chosen at this point in time not to cover those technologies simply because they're not in frequent enough use to where we feel like the average client is going to see those technologies in his preferred provider.
Yep. Yep.
And along that line, I didn't see a discussion of flow batteries. Has that come up at all?
Yes, there is some mention of flow batteries in
Okay.
here, but
Okay.
we really have not covered them in depth
Yeah.
because typically flow batteries take a lot of room for the given capacity, and more often than not, data centers are interested in high rate, short duration discharges as opposed to long duration, low rate discharges.
Okay.
And I see more people turning towards SMRs than I see moving towards flow batteries as storage technology.
Okay. Yeah, I think we have a good group now, and as yeah, we would like to everyone to contribute, and the more they contribute, rather we have discussion what is right and wrong than having nothing.
But I'm not hearing any favorable comments on changing the name of the group itself. Just keep the name as it is, right?
Yeah, it sounds like that as of now.
Yeah, I
Energy
support
storage.
that.
Yeah, you mean the name is fine? The ESS Fire Suppression.
Yeah. No, I don't see any
Okay.
need to change the name. I
Okay.
do see a need to, once this thing is finalized, and I would like to see the group stay together and to talk about some of the other issues associated with energy storage for data
Yeah.
centers.
Yeah, and maybe
As
go
would I.
deeper. Yeah.
But get this thing done first.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So from our end, I think yeah. So we would wait to see some changes, and in the next meeting we can go through the changes or made, and we can finalize the text.
Yeah, I would definitely like to be able to, in that first meeting in January, I would like to be able to basically have the paper finalized so that we can go through it with a fine tooth comb and have it ready to, and basically at that point in time, what I'd like to do is do an internal ballot. In other words, amongst ourselves, be able to read through the paper and determine whether or not we feel like the paper is ready to be delivered to OCP so that on that January 21st meeting, we can in fact deliver it to OCP ready for them to go through and be able to approve it.
Yeah.
What is the overall next meeting schedule besides just that one in January? But is it posted on here or is part of this? They're already sent, right? Standard from Fruit.
Everything should be on the calendar. And if you have access to the white paper, you should be able to get to the calendar through that same link.
I was just kind of thinking if it might be useful to retouch to know, you know, kind of what, I mean, what we have like 2 or 3 meetings before that final one. So I was just curious, want to run through try to do this by then, this by then, this by then thing.
Yeah, kind of timeline, you mean, right?
Because the next meeting is January 24th or December 24th, right? There's nothing until then.
Yeah. So I would suggest that Dan, maybe we speak and then we set up 2 or 3 meetings, depending on the times, right? Before that, and we need to
Yes.
kind of. I'll speak to Mark about this, and let us have at least minimum 2 meetings before 20th of 24th. I don't know who would want to come on 24th of December, but yeah, at least 2 meetings before that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
we
think we could notify.
and that's
group later.
basically a question that we probably ought to go ahead and address. Does everybody feel comfortable with having a meeting on the 24th?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. All right.
Okay,
So,
we'll go ahead and plan then, and
yeah.
maybe try to have the paper wrapped up or wrapping the paper up on the 24th. Okay.
Yeah. And maybe in between 2 meetings, maybe possibly on 10th, or yeah, we will send out the meeting links internally. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Okay. One more
Everybody's-
request before we leave. Then sorry to stop you. One more request before we leave. I would request to bring in more contacts from what in the other industry experts from what you guys have. I believe the more people we have, and it will complicate things. I think at least it will bring more expertise, of course, for what we are working on. And yeah, we would be happy to have more people in the group.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, looking forward to working with you folks on this. I've sent in my request for access, and yeah, we'll talk again next time.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you,
thanks.
folks. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks,
Okay.
everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.
Thanks, folks.